Origin just almost reaction. This is China's modern military. Anime history by the channel, the Armchair Historian. Yes, he's an armchair historian. I love this guy. It's fucked up what's been happening to him on YouTube, on the platform. I don't understand this whole thing about history getting like demonized, right? History is history. It's a fact. Like, history is like, I think people should, like, words have power. One thing I've noticed throughout all the, like, I think about things a lot, like philosophy of things, and I realize that words have really power. So history should have like something like fact word attached to it whenever they can. That would have like enough like this kind of power, because you see history, you just compartmentalize it as something, like it's something. It's a history. No, it's a fact. It's not up to opinion. It's a fucking fact. At that point, you're just like, oh, this is not okay. Okay, I understand like fucked up things, like images and things shouldn't be on YouTube. I get it. But just like I react to like some videos like Federation or something where they just show some stock footage of something like tanks and things. And even that is like YouTube, like, whoa, I can, like, I have to, like, you've seen this in recent video. I had to blur some things. Like, what the fuck? That's not even something problematic, but no, we can't have that. YouTube is becoming way too twitchy, man, and that's not good. There has to be a balance, and they're like going past the balance, right? They've, recently they've just like lowered the bit standard for something like, anything nudity related and things like that. I'm like, don't do that. Do something about, demonizing history first before doing anything like that. Lowering a restriction for something like nudity, okay, that's still something, but you should do something about history. That's more important. But okay. So yeah, this is about China's modern military. I'm an Indian, so of course I'm going to be unbiased. Why wouldn't I be? I've been watching like this military equipment type of video recently through this rabbit hole. Anything, like ships, tanks, jets. I assumed I know a bit of it, but I never knew that I didn't know shit and how much things there are and how much nuance there is to it. I always ranked jets like, oh, this is just better than this, the end. Then I realized everybody has their job. That's not how world works. So yeah, this is interesting. So China is like, you people compare China to USA, which is like weird. I don't think it compares to USA in any sense of the way. I think China compares to India. But at the same time, China's progressed so much that they're like really far ahead that people compare it to US, which is like, okay. Because 20 years ago, if you see any city of China, people are just like bicycle, weird rickshaws, no cars even on the road. And look at them now. Look at the cities, like the fucking bridges and things everywhere. And obviously they are like, let's just say cheating through their certain equipment by espionage and shit. But that's not really working. That whatever that B-2 bomber equivalent is like, it's not that good compared to it. And the F-35 equivalent jet that they upgraded, cross-section of that is nowhere near close to F-22 and F-35. So how is that a stealth? I don't know. But let's watch this. This is going to be interesting. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. That way you can help this channel by helping the algorithm. I'll do anything military-related type of this. I do most of things because I like it, right? I don't care about, just click. What type of video will get click more? I don't think that. Otherwise, I would be making a lot of meme type of video. I like this. I would be watching this anyway if I didn't have a channel. But I just like, oh, fuck it, let's make a channel. That's why I made this channel in the first place. So if you like any of things I react, don't forget to like and subscribe. I also created Instagram after a million years, I guess. That's also in the link. If you want to follow me, follow there. And yeah, that's it.
The People's Republic of China fields the world's largest active military. This buildup of force has not gone unnoticed by competing superpowers like Russia or the United States. For China's smaller neighbors like Taiwan and the Philippines, this threatens to destabilize the Indo-Pacific region as a whole. Major powers continue to leverage their influence over global hegemony, but China's military is preparing for the conditions of a multipolar world, a world in which no single country may call the shots. In 1927, what we now know as the Chinese People's Liberation Army, or PLA, started as the Workers' and Peasants' Red Army. The force was less a fully organized military and more of a group of various militias.
Okay, the fucking thing lagged. It wasn't pausing. Okay. One thing I noticed about Amchai that his video is like ultra wide. I always thought he just puts bar in top and bottom for whatever reason, just like cinematic effect. But no, it's a literal ultra wide ratio. It's this full mobile screen.
Pulled under a common name. However, as the Chinese Civil War dragged on, these groups began to restructure and expand into a more centralized regime. Barely 6 months after winning the Chinese Civil War, the newly reformed PLA went on to fight in the Korean War against the United States. During this conflict, the PLA suffered heavy losses, but were able to gain support from the Soviet Union and eventually turn North Korea into a buffer zone between China and the US beyond.
ट्रैवल बुकिंग बनाओ आसान।
By the way, the whole Korean War was insane, back and forth. But I need to watch another video because I watched that a long time ago. I need to make another video about that. It was so insane, like back and forth, and it's not like just a bit. They went all the way to north, nearly crossing China, and they went all the way to back, nearly just whatever, like last point that's I don't forget the name, but that's back and forth 2-3 times before leveling out in the middle. That was so insane. I don't think anything I've seen that in any war has this kind of like progress and regress that way.
I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Holzkern, the world leader in watches, jewelry, and accessories made from natural materials like wood and stone.
Hold up there. I just realized, man. I'm pretty sure I've heard some creators saying that they make more money through sponsors and like Patreon than they make from YouTube ads. So I don't get why is Armchair Stone like moving away from this platform? Like, okay, fine, you don't have ad. I'm pretty sure you're gonna have much more exposure and people and just like through sponsors and Patreon, you make more money on YouTube, wouldn't you? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Like I'm pretty sure like only 10% of revenue comes from ads. That's how much they make from sponsors and Patreon. I don't know.
It's the historian's canvas and your most valuable asset. Holzkern watches are not just unique timepieces, they're a piece of history, merging classic elegance with modern ingenuity and natural materials, making every moment count. Holzkern's high-quality watches, jewelry, and accessories are the perfect gift for any occasion or style, with each individual piece an unforgettable expression of the timeless connection you have with a loved one and choose your own personal piece of nature for everyday life with
What the fuck, it was mute? Yeah, support this channel by going to the original video page link. This is like one of the few channels that's really good. Like since the day one I've been reacting to this is one of the channels, Epic History TV. These are really good one. So it's really fucked up what's happening to them.
Holzkern, cementing China as a big player on the world stage. The Korean War provided lessons that would help them begin modernizing their army. This process began with a reform program aimed at transforming the army into a force capable of defending China and its...
What is that? What is that video? Was Xi Jinping, right? What's up? What's up, Hong Kong? What was that? I forgot the name. What's up, Beijing? I'm pretty sure he didn't say what's up, but it's something Chinese word that sounds like that. But it's so perfect. As soon as conference out, what's up, Beijing? That's so good.
Neighbors from what they saw as Western influence. Following the Soviet model, these reforms included institutional changes, command centralization, improvements in technology, strategy, and even the formation of a nuclear program. By the late 1960s, China's alliance with the Soviet Union had fallen apart as the Soviets were viewed with increasing suspicion in regards to national security. As border clashes broke out between the two blocs, other countries like India and Vietnam found themselves challenging Chinese territorial claims, which in turn led China to a rapid expansion of personnel numbers that ballooned over 6 million, the highest point in its history. Existing strategies for China's defense at first relied on attrition and guerrilla warfare against invaders like the Soviet Union, but by the 1980s,
I refuse to believe that India basically was the aggressor at any point. That doesn't make sense with the whole ideology. India is a pacifist country. Whole motto is if you attack us first, then we'll defend. India never is the aggressor. And even if you tell me like really like document a fact, I'll still refuse. India never does that.
The PLA changed their strategy toward a more aggressive and mechanized approach. This shift toward mechanization and high maneuverability in the field was given further support by military planners in the 1990s who had witnessed its potential in American demonstrations during the Gulf War and Taiwan Strait crisis. Since its formation, a key distinction of the People's Liberation Army compared to other military forces is its direct subordination to the Chinese Communist Party rather than the state. In effect, this makes the goals of the state and the party essentially the same. The 2019 Chinese White Paper highlights this
Oh my god, how good is his green screen? For a second I didn't realize before I watched something like, wait a minute, that looks cartoonish. So everything's a green screen besides him and sofa. But he blend that really well together.
distinction, noting that the PLA is entrusted with providing strategic support for consolidating the leadership of the CCP and the socialist system.
जो फैन अपने फोन से
President in 2012, Xi Jinping has pushed several PLA reforms to assist the party in achieving what he calls the Chinese dream, hoping to transform China into a great power. These changes haven't come without their problems, however. The last time China fought a war was in 1979, meaning that it lacks any real modern combat experience. China may have significantly modernized and expanded its arsenal since the 70s, but it hasn't been able to reliably test any of these new weapons in the field, leaving many of their
Oh my god, that does come to effect, right? I mean, I never think of that, but yeah, if you never fought any war in a long time, all of your like even veterans are going to be rookies in a way because they've never seen action. Is that why most powers in the world do some shit in Middle East in the name of democracy? It's like we have to keep up, like we have to, train. Is that what shit it is? Always in Africa, always in Iraq, Libya, God knows what.
capabilities technically unproven. Furthermore, PLA training and exercises have also been criticized for being over-scripted and failing to simulate realistic combat conditions. More recent steps have been taken to improve training, but only time will tell if these are effective. Still, both the
I don't watch too much. There was a video about like Chinese college or something, university, where they were reenacting Shinzo Abe's assassination, right? I think that's what the case was. I don't remember exactly, but something like that. And they were just clapping like it's some kind of like a Shakespeare's play or something like that. I was just like, what the fuck? I'm hoping that's like not real and somebody just stitched that together, because that's just like, how could you have that kind of mentality regardless of what?
The CCP and the military have a plan in place. As per the most recent Chinese white paper, the PLA's defense strategy covers a range of priorities, which include safeguarding national sovereignty, containing independence movements, and securing interests over maritime rights, cybersecurity, and even outer space. Of these duties, the most controversial is their opposition of Taiwanese independence and the containment of the Taiwanese movement throughout the globe. For the Communist Party, this is important as the Taiwanese question feeds directly into the protection of Chinese sovereignty over Taiwan and other territories throughout the South China Sea. Part of this
Yeah, US needs TMSC. US needs Taiwan for the next edge. How does that work? US was the inventor of all that shit. How did Taiwan become better? They just start doing it and just became better? I don't know. But yeah, US needs TMSC. There's no way in hell they're going to give that up.
requires China's military to be capable of carrying out active defense, a long-term strategy that is defensive at the strategic level of war, but often offensive at the operational and tactical levels. The Chinese intervention in Korea against the US is an example of this defensive measure in action. In more recent years, the military buildup and aggressive presence in the South China Sea is another example of China exercising this active defense for the sake of national sovereignty.
Type 093 Shang class submarine, okay. Aircraft carrier. Corvette. Jingdao class. Why is it called Corvette? What is wait a minute, carrier is, I understand. Corvette is the actual class? Like something is called Corvette? It's not a name, it's like a distinction, like just like how carriers are, submarines are, there's a Corvette. What does Corvette mean? Like how you call a carrier because it carries jets and everything. Submarine. There's something called Corvette. I was assuming it's just a name. Like something has a name, like also car has a name, Corvette, Corvette, why not? Frigate, I know frigate, but yeah. Destroyer, okay.
China has undoubtedly made huge strides in enhancing its power projection capabilities. Nevertheless, it's essential to acknowledge that it currently falls short of matching the power projection standards of global giants such as the United States. One key area where China faces limitations is in its strategic airlift and aerial refueling capabilities, which significantly lag behind those of the US. China's aircraft carrier fleet is still in its developmental stages, lacking the extensive operational experience and strength of its American counterparts. Economically, China's influence continues to expand across regions like Central Asia, Africa, and Latin America, but its military power limits China's reach only to its immediate vicinity.
Yeah, see, the problem with that is, I think China tried to do dominance on Indian Ocean, is still trying to do it, but they realize US is power through Pacific all the way to Taiwan, Japan Sea, things like that. Then they realize maybe they can like break through that and still dominate. But then they realize like India is also becoming strong this way. They're creating their own nuclear powered submarines and shit like that. They're becoming, India also becoming powerhouse. Maybe not comparable to China, but still enough to be a problem. So they realize there's US in Indian, South India place. That's where like India is there. So they can basically dominate all of that. So they're basically trying to make, a port, like whatever it's called, like from Pakistan, right? Trying to access Indian Ocean from there. They would face issues with India if shit goes down, but not from US all the way there. So that is something.
Making it predominantly a regional military player at this stage. Another distinction that makes the PLA somewhat unique is in the name itself. The People's Liberation Army, although containing the word army, actually encompasses the entire Chinese military. Under this system, each of the military's 5 main branches are designated as within the PLA. It's an approach that exemplifies China's commitment to a unified military strategy and helps reflect its principle of being the armed wing of the Chinese Communist Party first and foremost. The oldest of these branches is the ground force, equivalent to a traditional army. Also known as the PLAGF, its basic operational structure starts with the group army, operating much like a corps in other armies, but with more flexibility and responsiveness in mind. Group armies are assigned to one of China's theater commands, each controlling 12 brigade-sized organizations, 6 being combined arms brigades, and the other 6 being support brigades. Of the 2, the combined arms brigades make up the bulk of the
What type of infantry vehicle they use? Because I realize that Bradley, USS Bradley, with like decently sized barrel with a lot of ammo, which is basically one thing I realized is US's thing. What the fuck? One thing I realized is US's thing, like don't go too over the top with caliber. Just have enough of a big caliber, but have a lot of it. Same thing with their battleships. While at the same time, Russia's infantry vehicle that I recently reacted to, if you haven't seen then check out the link in the system, it's one of the latest videos, has like bigger barrel, but it can't carry as much as ammo, so it's like debatable at this time, right? Same thing with the Federation video that also recently reacted about battleships, how their battleships have like smaller caliber but a lot of it. Just ammunition alone is just like terrifying compared to something like, I don't know, Bismarck or Yamato.
PLAGF's combat power, as each brigade utilizes roughly 4 to 6 battalions featuring integrated artillery, air defense, headquarters, and logistics units. Since the mechanization that began in the 1980s, the once immense personnel numbers of the ground force have shrunk by 55%, leaving an active total of around 975,000 troops. Under current conditions, the ground force is responsible for both domestic and multinational security, ensuring stability and engaging in rescue or disaster relief operations when called upon. The PLAGF possesses a large stockpile of military equipment, which has been rapidly modernizing over the past several years. They are estimated to maintain over 4,800 main battle tanks, with the most common being the second generation Type 96 and 96As, supplemented by a number of the newest third generation Type 99A tanks. The ground force also operates around 7,700 Type 04 and Type 08 infantry fighting vehicles and a host of other equipment from APCs to assault guns and attack helicopters. The People's Liberation Army Air Force, or PLAAF, is China's air service branch responsible for the PLA's combat air power. Originally tasked with interception and air defense, the PLAAF has expanded considerably in recent years, transitioning into a strategic air force capable of defensive and offensive operations, with both happening at increasing distances from the Chinese mainland as time goes on. These operations can be attributed to its overall size. Despite other branches, such as the Naval Air Arm or ground forces fielding their own assortment of air assets, it is the PLAAF that constitutes the third largest air force in the world. Still, even with these advances, the Air Force's limited capabilities outside of Chinese airspace means that they are far less concerned with air dominance than the Americans. For the PLAAF, simply denying airspace to an adversary is considered adequate. To enforce their boundaries, the Air Force operates a wide variety of aircraft, totaling 2,566 airframes. These include a multitude of bombers, fighters, multi-role, and specialized aircraft, with the total strength of the PLAAF being estimated at around 395,000 personnel. While these statistics can be staggering, it is important to note that the PLA equipment numbers are constantly changing and can be subject to a fair amount of guesswork in some cases despite the resources.
I mean, come on, it's China. Why the f do they tell you anything? It's basically mostly based on intel. That can like, is it true? Is it not? It's just like various and other thing, right? That's why, there's a saying like most rare earth minerals are in China. Because nobody knows, right? It comes out of China. How many is there? China's not going to tell you. So, yeah.
Available. This is also the case for their operational reliability. Just because China maintains a certain number of systems on paper does not always mean that they can operate that many systems in the field. Equipment or vehicles sitting in unprotected storage may be accounted for, but it hardly makes them operational. PLA's third and arguably more relevant branch due to their maritime activities is the People's Liberation Army Navy, or PLAN. It comprises 5 distinct service arms, including surface, submarine, coastal defense.
One thing is damn for sure. Of all the arms, I think Navy is the most important one, the most dominant one. There's a reason why Britain covered the third of the earth one time. It's third because they couldn't like to China and Russia. That's mostly it. Otherwise, they would be half or more than half. But a third of the world one time because of their fucking navy. That's it. Because of navies, you can have nuclear submarines. Because of navies, you can have like dominant aircraft carriers. They can use some badass jets to do anything. If you want to invade something, you're going to need navy because most of the thing is water on the planet, right? Look at the Pacific. If you are from space and see at an angle, there will be only water. You won't see any land. I didn't even know that until like 2-3 years ago when I watched a fucking real life lore video where like if you're at just right position, Pacific is so big you won't see any land.
Naval aviation, and the Marine Corps. This formidable naval force is strategically organized into 3 fleets, each assigned to the Southern, Eastern, and Northern Theater Commands. The naval surface combatants constitute a substantial chunk of the plan's arsenal, totaling 92 primary vessels, which include 2 aircraft carriers with a third in development, 7 cruisers, 42 destroyers, and 41 frigates. Additionally, the Navy maintains a fleet of 142 patrol and coastal combat vessels.
You can have numbers, but how good are they, right? Whenever people throw numbers about Russia and China, people just assume because of Soviet Union time, like Russia must be somewhat close to equivalent to US, and there you go. But any other country like China and something, like how good are they? You can throw numbers, 42 destroyers. But how good are the destroyers? What if like 10 destroyers for something like US could bit slap all of 42 of them? At that point, does it matter if there are 42?
Along with 11 large amphibious assault ships and 109 landing ships of varying sizes. The Navy's submarine force is a formidable component, with 59 submarines in operation, 12 of which are nuclear-powered.
What the
While
fuck?
historically dominant,
59 submarines and 12 of them nuclear. I didn't know that. I thought like 3, 4, 12.
recent modernization efforts have shifted focus elsewhere, leaving submarine capabilities trailing behind their American counterparts. In general, the Navy has been constructing new ships at a rapid pace, making it the largest Navy in the world in terms of sheer numbers, but possesses less than half of the tonnage of the US Navy. On average, this means that Chinese ships tend to be smaller than their American counterparts. US Navy ships also carry more than twice as many offensive missiles. However, it should be noted that in any engagement close to Chinese waters, like Taiwan, China could deploy significant numbers of ground-based anti-ship missiles to potentially narrow this gap. Tasked with the defense of China's territorial waters, the plan has more recently put increasing emphasis on blue water capabilities further abroad, such as in the Indian Ocean, with anti-piracy patrols conducted in the
How is that not act of aggression? Putting a fucking port in Sri Lanka. I heard that, I'm like, what the fuck? Sri Lanka might as well be India, that's how close it is. Like, they're just touching there. Look at that shit. I'm pretty sure like there's a point where you can see Sri Lanka from standing from India. Oh, look at that! There, I can see Sri Lanka from here. This shit is insane. I don't know how India let it happen there, right? It's like, you know, if when they start to do this, India should be like just one. Like if you put a port in Sri Lanka, that's a fucking act of war, right? At that point, we'll have to be at war or some shit like that. I don't care how powerful China, they're not going to be full of, you know, blow to blow war with India for shit like this. This is an act of aggression. I know India letting that go, and once they put a foothold properly there, what's India going to do then? Right? This shit is insane, right? Look at the Pakistan, what is the Myanmar now in here? Bangladesh, they have a port in Bangladesh. What the fuck are you people doing, man? British split Bangladesh and Pakistan. There you go. Now we are all fucked.
Gulf of Aden since 2008, and the more recent opening of its first overseas base in Djibouti in 2017. Assisting this strategy is the plan's expanded personnel, numbering around 260,000 sailors, complemented by 26,000 naval aviation experts and 35,000 dedicated Marines. Notably, the naval aviation arm of the Navy remains relatively nascent, both in terms of capabilities and doctrine. Mainly operate carrier-based J-15 fighters, which are navalized aircraft based on Soviet designs, an emerging strategy which is still evolving as the Navy comes to terms with their air arm potential. Beyond the three main branches, two other services contribute equally important duties to the military. One of these is the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force, or PLA-RF, which is responsible for overseeing China's ground-based ballistic missiles. This includes responsibility over much of the nuclear arsenal, though the CCP maintains a no first-use nuclear policy, which stresses the use of nuclear weapons only in self-defense, and that they would
Yeah, they're not going to use the nuke first because, see, it says in writing. They said it, so it's set in stone. Of course, they're not going to do it. And it's not like communism is aggressive anyway, right? They're not going to do it, definitely.
not be used to instigate a nuclear conflict. In general, China does not publicly share the size of its nuclear arsenal, so it is impossible to know for sure the number of warheads it possesses. Many estimates put the size of the nuclear stockpile between 200 and 400 devices. In terms of personnel, the total strength of the rocket force is...
Look, my man, somebody puts that kind of number, it just means that we don't know shit, right? It's like saying, like, you know, what is the weather? There's like 50% chance of raining, so which means you don't know shit. It's either way, it can be anything. 200 to 400, that's like a double measure.
Estimated to be over 120,000. Alongside the PLARF, the military's fifth branch includes the Strategic Support Force, or SSF, which was established during the military reforms of Xi Jinping. The exact role of the Strategic Support Force has been kept vague by official Chinese sources. An example of this is the ongoing debate on whether the SSF represents a full service branch of the PLA or a sub-service branch. This also means that their exact role within the military is somewhat murky. Outside observers are confident that the SSF is
Mysterious stranger. So they're gonna suddenly show up and stab somebody in the back, shoot somebody in the back. That feels about right.
is primarily
China's
engaged
doctrine.
in space and information operations, including cyber, electronic, and psychological warfare operations. The known assets of the SSF include just 4 Haixing-class cutter ships used mainly for missile and satellite tracking. The total strength of SSF personnel is estimated to be around 175,000. Lastly is a lesser-known sub-service of the military known as the Joint Logistics Support Force, or JLSF. This branch of the PLA was also created during Xi Jinping's most recent reforms, and was tasked with unifying and facilitating the logistic challenges of the PLA's numerous branches. Historically, the PLA has struggled with significant corruption throughout all of its military levels, and it remains a problem which hinders the organization today. While Xi Jinping's reforms attempt to address these issues through branches like the JLSF, the process of reorganization itself has led to its own problems. The expediency and pressure of these reforms have led to significant disruption across all of the PLA, and some experts fear that growing pains associated with reorganization will impact China's combat readiness for some time. Nevertheless, the JLSF
It does make sense. If you're going to make that kind of like drastic changes, you're going to be vulnerable. There's a reason why you don't have elections during wartime, because you don't need people coming and changing shit during this time, because change takes time and getting used to it, I guess.
JLSF's main duties include reducing redundancies and generally increasing efficiency within the PLA's immense bureaucracy. While the JLSF does handle some logistics for all of the PLA's branches, this is mostly just at the theater level, and individual services still remain in charge of their more localized logistics. Given the size of the PLA, it's natural for many flaws and issues to surface in full view of China's opposition. But as a military force, the PLA also boasts numerous strengths. As of 2022, the PLA's official budget was around $242 billion, making it the second best funded military in the world. However, the official budget does not fully highlight the money being spent on defense. Their biggest advantage comes in the level of purchasing power over nations such as the US or Russia, giving them more bang for their buck on military spending. The past several years have seen the PLA carry out increasingly aggressive exercises and maneuvers near Taiwan. PLA forces have also acted increasingly boldly around the entire Indo-Pacific region. As China gains increasing confidence in their military forces, these displays of power are likely to increase. Perhaps more concerningly for the West, China has also rapidly modernized and expanded its nuclear arsenal. If the PLA continues,
I know US is starting to make India its friend in a way, as friend can be on a global stage, but they should have done that a long time ago when they realized like China is going to be a threat going forward. It's been it's been like obvious since 2016, 2017, but now they realize like we need India to stabilize the region. Like really now, they're like thinking, US is thinking of putting like factories and things, arm factories, still like certain things that would give India its power. They're still not giving it to India, I guess. I don't know, that's just weird. Like China is your biggest threat now rather than Russia, right? India is a democratic country. There's no scenario where India would fight with US. Like what would be the reason? Right? There's no ideology or any problems I can see where US and India might go total. In any scenario, either India might be neutral or ally of US in any conflict. So it's like, India is like the largest democracy on the world by sheer number, and it's like threatened by like regimes like China's and things around it. It makes common sense to give India certain equipments, right, rather than India seeking it from the Russians basically. And Russians are going to give it like that. That's the first of all, Russia's GDP, it relies on that, and Russia and India goes really back. But at the same time, they also like, okay, stop buying Russian things, right? There's like, if you buy this, we are going to put sanction on this and that. Like right now, China is your threat. Before it becomes too much, you need a certain power stabilize that. You can't do something by the end. You need India to basically slowly and steadily be stronger. So when time comes, they can actually do something. I don't know.
At its current pace, China could soon possess as many as 1,500 warheads. The year 2027 marks a significant milestone for the PLA, as China aims to complete a pivotal phase in its modernization efforts. This phase encompasses the crucial objectives of mechanization, informationization, and intelligentization within the PLA's ranks. As the ground force looks to complete its mechanization, it will likely continue to get smaller, but will grow increasingly flexible and mobile as motorized infantry and towed artillery become fully mechanized. Also likely is that individual unit sizes will shrink. The Navy will likely continue to grow, despite concerns of ships aging and requiring more maintenance, becoming increasingly capable of acting outside of China's territorial waters. Inshore defense capabilities will also be maintained, consisting of small attack boats and ground-based missiles to deter potential invasion forces. The Air Force will likely reduce the number of air superiority fighters it possesses, focusing instead on more multi-role aircraft and bombers. From its humble beginnings in the Chinese Civil War, Mao's Red Army has transformed into a military juggernaut, making it not only the largest in the world, but also the fastest modernizing force today. It's widely speculated that the PLA considers this phase of modernization as vital, potentially influencing any future actions related to Taiwan and the Pacific. The final stages of modernization are set to conclude by 2049. Thanks.
Yeah. See, the problem with this, I get it, like they're ramping a military like faster than nobody else, like besides USA. But at the same time, the economy is suffering a lot. And the more that economy suffer, they are like strengthening the military, just like out of fear, maybe. That was the strategy of Soviet Union, Russia, and basically today, look at the GDP of Russia. It's not that much, but the military has always been like powerful enough through spending and whatever. China could become next Russia in that way, right? So they need to focus on the keeping their economy growing. That has been doing for past 2 or so decades. If it stagnates, that's going to be a fucking problem. Like if you make a big jump, you better keep that pace. If you don't, that's a big ass problem. Will create a big divides and shit like that, right? So yeah, there you go. And yeah, China is like insanely aggressive, right? Look, on the points of like US and India relation is getting better, obviously, like I said, but nowadays, like you can see the briefings and things from military people from US, like how they're like saying like, okay, I guess we need to keep India ally in this way, because shit goes down, they are there, they are the neighbor of China, they are like India in Asian area, that's the stabilizer. We are surrounded by Pakistan, which is the most, let's just say, terrorist. Osama bin Laden was there, and just like everything basically boils down to that. China is like aggressor. India is the only thing that's left in a way, right? But at the same time, they are not giving certain like vital next generation type of like something. I don't know what it was. Was it a submarine technology or something? I don't know. But they basically denied India's request. India tried to take from Russia or something, but they said like, we're gonna sanction you. I'm pretty sure India still like, fuck it, I'm just gonna take it from Russia, do whatever we want type of thing. I'm pretty sure they took it, and they're like working to make more nuclear submarines, and they're also like making breakthrough in that one. But still, this is the time to like realize like, okay, China's become way too aggressive, right? If make sure how to not have war break out. You need to make sure that it's something like India is strong. If China sees that, China sees like US is on my ass and now India is also powerful, it's best to not make war. That's the best deterrent, to make sure there's no one singular power overpowering the region. I don't know. Well, that was China's modern military. Watch an armchair history. If you like my reaction, do subscribe, and I'll see you next time.